Joining us now, she is entering, believe it or not, her sixth season as UCF softball head coach. Of course, this fresh led UCF to three straight NCAA tournaments, 40 plus wins each of the last three seasons, which is a first in the program. She was this summer was the U.S. assistant national assistant coach. It's been doing that for the last couple of years. She's won 185 games during her time at UCF, fastest UCF head coach to get to 185 wins in the program. Two-time All-American at Pacific. Sydney Ball-Malone with us here on In the Circle. That's a long. You're
Thank you.
every year your resume gets longer and longer.
Well, Elo, that's what happens when you have great people around you that just accomplish awesome things, and then you get to be a little bit a part of it. So thank you
That's
very
true.
much.
It's kind of blown by 6 seasons. I couldn't believe when I said that. How are you different today as a coach than you were, say, 5 years ago when I literally spoke to you in your office for the first time on an interview, and you realized it was just not going to be a 10-minute interview? What? How are you different today than you were back then?
Oh boy, I want to say that I'm more settled, but I think I'm crazier than ever, in a good way. But I would say from a coaching standpoint, just more understanding of things that are more important than I ever imagined that have nothing to do with how we play the game physically, but more of how we, play the game mentally, emotionally, socially, all those things. And just really being about the people in our program. Doesn't take away from my competitiveness. I'm still competitive and I still get fired up, but just understanding that those things are more important, and like I said, keeping and having great people around you is super important. And I value that tremendously.
Among the people around you, obviously you have Jen Salling back for her second season as an assistant coach. Always good to have a two-time Olympian on the staff. You've added Becca Mueller to run your offense. She came over from Cal. And of course, you've added Cassidy Brewer as a full-time assistant. You now have three full-time assistants. Just discuss your staff and bringing in Becca and Cassidy specifically. And of course, you have Shannon Sales at GA.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I can't not mention Coach Tyler Heil. I still reach out to him often because he was such a huge factor in what we did here. And so honorable what, he chose family over the game. And so uh, I keep him in my back pocket for sure. But to go on and move on, adding Coach Becca when I first interviewed her 2 years ago, I was a little leery, and I tell her this because I was like, "You're gonna be a head coach, and then I'm gonna have to be doing this way quicker again than I wanted to." But after the second go around, I just love to have the opportunity because Jen's in her realm. Coach Jen Selling is in her realm of being able to defense, defense, defense. And if you talk to her, defense wins championships. And that's the most important part of the game. But if you talk to Coach Becca, it's the offense. And so that dynamic has been awesome because everybody takes their role in their area of the game, and are head coaches of their areas in such an awesome way. Becca's way of how she sees the game, thinks the game, communicates to our athletes is quite similar to like just we see eye to eye on a lot of things. And so it's just awesome to know she doesn't have the Washington ties, which has kind of been a trend for me. Um, but she does have that NorCal connected in other ways that is very similar to what we do here. And so the transition has been awesome. Our women love having somebody work with them offensively and have such a like detail oriented approach. And then obviously adding Cassidy Brewer back on has, just to bring an alumni back in is so much fun. Her passion for the game, for this, not only the game and the sport, but for UCF softball, just speaks volumes. And it's important to know that your people are so loyal. And if like people call her Cub or Cubby or um, Mini Bear because I would take her if I were in a dogfight. I'm bringing Brew because I know she's got my back. And so that's important when you're going down this long road of um, everything that we're doing here with the program. So, and then Shannon Sale coming back as our GA, just her, she obviously her um, responsibilities are limited with the rules, but just having somebody around that's been there, done that, been in a great program, still playing. Our women look up to her, and so it's great to have, like I said, awesome people around me.
That's tremendous. How much is that having that extra now help with the third full time assistant? I mean, you could kind of clear, talk about what Cassidy's roles are, but how does that affect your deal from the standpoint? I would assume you're able to delegate more. You have a little bit more of a game managing type now with having that third full time assistant.
Yeah, that was the plan is just having more assistants in the bullpen too when I need it because we do carry a large pitching roster. And so giving them that time when they need it, having eyes on them, and then being able to manage the team more has been really nice. I think it's great for our sport. Selfishly, I want one more, so then I can be a real manager of the program. But um, I think it's great what we've done to uh, up the amount of coaches and be able to pay them well and not have to worry about fundraising for them. So that's been awesome. And like you said, if I'm different in that way of really managing and helping with people, then I'm able to be in that role even more than, always doing the tactical coaching, if you will.
You're a busy person. Obviously, you're a mom, you're a wife, you're a head coach, you're also an assistant on the U.S. national team. You spent time in Dublin, Ireland, if I recall, this past summer, helping the U.S. qualify for next year's World Cup. That's significant because obviously softball now is back in the Olympics in 2028. I want your reaction to that as someone who's been involved with now USA softball. And I won't ask you about the driving adventures that I've heard about in Dublin, Ireland, but that experience and the balancing act that you have to do with all that, being with the USA responsibilities, and especially so big now in the next few years, and obviously with your responsibilities at UCF.
Yeah, I mean, just to have those opportunities in 2028, so excited for. No, it's those moments in the summer, being able to be around some of the best coaches in the game, but now like getting to call them my really close and good friends, is pretty special. And we often joke of we have some of the most talented women that play on Team USA, and we're like, well, do they really need us? But it's fun to still be wanted by some of the best players out there, not only in the nation but in the world. So those summers are just so awesome. And this last summer, I'm going to admit, I started off the trip and I texted him and I said, guys, I'm going to need a big bear hug because I'm leaving my babies and it's harder and harder, as they get older. And right away, you've got Tim, Tony, and Coach Targe coming up and giving me a hug. And being away from family's hard, but they do make it easier because there's so much fun to be around. There's so much knowledge being thrown around and winning. And we win a lot together as a group. Is I don't think there's anything better. So the driving, we don't have to mention that, but it's never a boring or dull time when you get us four together. We'll just say that.
Very well said. One of these off season summers, if there ever is a such thing as an off season, I got to get the four of you together because there's a lot of stories that you have to talk about, but not this time. But it's fun. Deal that you're covering that. Of course, you've got a team here this year that is one of the most fascinating rosters that I can remember here. This is my 18th season covering UCF. You got 11 seniors on this team, the largest senior class in the history of the program, and could go down as the most successful senior class, especially the 4 and 5 year old senior class that we'll get into. But that's also mixed in with 7 freshmen. That's part of this. What was rated the 16th best recruiting class in the country. That's an unique balance. In fact, you have 11 players that are either freshmen or sophomore. How do you get that chemistry with that experience with so many seniors, but yet you have so much youth and talent in that freshman sophomore class?
Yeah. I know I'm celebrating like we never have seniors, and we have them now.
Got plenty.
Been awesome. Yeah, it's honestly that senior group, last year ending the season as we did, um, it left definitely a bitter taste in their mouth. And so I could say that I had this great plan, and I didn't. We met, shortly after, and I said, "Well, what do you guys think?" It was very casual, and I said, "How do you want to go about this next year?" And they said, "No, we want more. We want more. We don't want to end in supers. We want to go all the way." And they have been acting that out every day. So I think the freshmen having this senior class, not only the talent level, because I'll get into that later, but the leadership, the people, how much they respect who we are. They've been through it all. They've been through, moments with like locker rooms where it's like, let's just be quiet. We just lost that game. And then they've been through where there's been awesome moments in the locker room. And so they've seen how it should be done, maybe how we should make adjustments. And they're really doing a good job of just their leading. And so those freshmen are being able to mesh with them. I think the biggest thing that they really talk about is being as welcoming as we can be, especially to newcomers. And the moment that we really started to understand that different is okay, and having differences on our team is what's going to make us better. And I think we really got to see that in Sarah Willis coming here. When you see her automatically, she's different. She's got the Viper glasses and this funky wind up, and super athletic, can throw hard, grunts a little bit. And that's, she's also got a loud personality. And sometimes people that are quiet personalities, they at first they're kind of like standoffish, but once they understood that Sarah needs to be Sarah, and when she is her true self, she's the best version of herself, that's going to help this team go. And so I think that was great learning for us and for Sarah. I mean, she's become such a great leader in so many ways. Um, and so I think that that's really the seniors have taken that on and pushed through, and it's been fun. When we talk about leadership and captains, it's always been Jada and Shannon. We talk about them a lot, and this year it's all of them. I don't just look to Jada and Shannon. Jada and Shannon get to play a little bit more instead of having to focus on all the P's and Q's of the game. So yeah, they're doing it themselves, and I'm kind of just like hurting them a little bit here and there, but staying out of their way.
Probably the deepest roster you've ever had here. It's the deepest roster I've seen there, and I could tell because in the fall, a lot of the fans that came out after the game would come up to you and said, "We wish you very much good luck in trying to figure out a starting lineup." That's so at least they care about your
Yeah.
well-being on that. But it speaks volumes to the depth that you had, and I know there's been great competition, and the youngsters are pushing the veterans as they learn from the veterans. But you've got a lot of tools to play with this roster, don't you?
Oh yeah, yeah. I feel like we've had some great teams with some awesome depth in my tenure here. Not 18 years like you, Elo. You've been awesome here. But just in my 6 years here, I feel like we've had some great depth, and yes, this is even more. And um, the competition in practice, in scrimmages, it feels as if we're playing like we were in super regionals 2 years ago. And so I think that's been awesome, just to have that experience for all of our athletes and preparing them. Decisions are going to be tough, but that's our job to continue to talk about it, because playing time, everything's great until playing time comes into play. And we're talking about it right away. Look, every day someone different is making an ESPN defensive play out there, and that's what I was going to get to with Coach Jen. Um, at practice, I'll be in the bullpen, and I'm like, "Holy cow, I've never seen a play like that." Then the next day, "Holy cow, I've never seen a play like that." Um, Aubrey Evans, who plays a little more second base than shortstop, was filling in at shortstop because she was on the other team and made this awesome double play to end the first game of our scrimmage. And it's like, wow. And then the next day, Jazz made the play. And so, um, I just think now we're in a mature state where we understand that, whatever is for the program is going to be huge. The best team that, and the best starting nine, starting 10 that we throw out there, and how we start isn't always how we finish, and continuing to push and compete against each other. So I did get a lot of good lucks, and I might have to do some more like yoga or breathing exercises to stay calm through it all. But again, good and great problems to have. We have senior players, like you said, 11 of them, so maybe we can give them a little bit more rest to keep them fresh for the end of the year.
Well, and I know this. Some of this was by design. This roster in that preparing for the Big 12, which you've been open talking about how, from a recruiting standpoint and just putting this roster together, you kind of had an eye on the Big 12. And I remember even at the end of last year in Tallahassee, you sent out the message, and I'm paraphrasing what you said in the post game, that this is not good enough. That the players that are returning have to understand we're going to a different level, and we expect more because the competition will be even higher than like in the Big 12. Just describe that plan, because on the one hand, you've been trying to, you've won a lot, but I know you've been always have an eye on the future and things moving, like going to the Big 12.
Yeah, I mean, once that announcement went out, that we started to create our schedules as such, so it wasn't such a big slap in the face when it got here in front of us. Um, and so learning how to like work through those things in preseason and be in those situations was huge for us in these past couple of years since we found out we were going to the Big 12. But it was definitely by design because we knew we were going to have a large roster with, COVID and extra years and whatnot that weren't planned in the beginning, but as we move forward, and we didn't want to have to bring in 10 or 11 people the following year and have them all be freshmen that haven't played at the Division I level with some experience. And so that freshman class knows like they're good enough to come in and start, but we might have some seniors that they can learn from, and that is going to be so valuable for their career here. And so we've really talked about what that looks like from, just come in, compete, be that playground kid for us, win the spot. Nothing's just given to these seniors, but win the spot. And then let's take over the program when our seniors have played their last game here. And our goal and our vision is for this program to be traditionally playing into June. And so in order to do that, you have to have this deep roster like that. And so I'm definitely learning and navigating as we go because some things I haven't had in my past, and it is hard to manage such a large roster and give them all the one-on-one attention that I love to give and love having in our program. But it's well worth it, and we learn together each day.
Well, and we see that with the pitchers. I think you have what, 8 to 9 pitchers on the staff. You mentioned Sarah Willis, who's obviously gotten a lot of accolades, won the American Conference Pitcher of the Year, was the tournament MVP in the American, and is this year is already on the Big 12 All Conference team as well as on the top 100 D1 softball player list. She leads the way, but she's got a ton of backing. Grace Jewell had a great year last season, was all region last season. You've added some other pieces there like Ava Justman coming in, Sona coming in from Cal as an all Pac 12 pitcher. Just talk about this deep of a staff. I can't imagine you've ever had a staff this deep. So, tell us a little bit about this pitching staff.
Yeah, this pitching staff is really exciting. They've been so motivated. And when you hear eight, I mean, that's only one can do it at a time. And so the the thing that I commend them the most on is learning how to like come together as a staff. Our game is definitely changing. It's moving more towards a baseball model of, having a staff, having a starter, a reliever and a closer, because the hitters and the information, it's gotten so good over the years. Um, and so it's been awesome to see them really work together and learn that way. And they all have their own special, kick into it or twist when it comes to what they have, what they do. And that's been nice. And again, being able to be in the bullpen as often as I am now, and have all of that support and all of the other facets of the game has allowed for our pitchers to really develop as we go. But yeah, I mean, we've got some great experience coming back from last year, which is very different from the year before. The year before we went in with, I think, at most 50 innings. And it was like a combined 80 innings or something like that. But to have the experience that we have, um, across the board, to have some healthy people, Caitlin Felton, um, is looking darn good these days. Best I've seen her even when we recruited her, because she did have to go through an injury before she got here. And we never talked about it because obviously we're trying to let her work through it. But like now we've faced it head on and like, okay, you're back to who you were and and then some. Grace Jewell has got that confidence from last year, which has been nice. We talked about Sarah Willis, and then um, you know, I think the other two that we've added with some Division One experiences, Sona and Ava. You know, all different, but just their looks are just different from all the other looks on our program. But they bring this competitiveness. Our pitchers work. They work hard. They've got a fun, gritty personality. Um, I think of anyone, they're probably the most confident in testing the limits within our team, especially with me because they're, so close with me. And so it's been huge for our two youngest pitchers, Caitlin Cochran and Isa Vega, I mean, they're pushing and getting better. So it's been really nice, and I'll say they probably haven't felt as dominant in the last couple of days because we're facing our hitters so much, and our hitters used to swing and miss a lot more against us, and lately they've been putting the ball in play. And we're looking at our pitchers' numbers, and I'm like, no, I think the hitters are just getting better, guys. Like this is going to make us better. So all around, I'm really excited to see what it's like to play somebody else.
Yeah, and of course Angelina DeVoe's been a weapon out of the bullpen as a lefty, the senior there. Who I call her Miss Clearwater because a couple times you've been to Clearwater, she's had incredible tournaments each year, so she's probably looking forward to that tournament when that comes around. But with this big of a staff, do you go in thinking I want to have 3, 4 starters established and some relievers, or do you just kind of let it play out and go week by week? What's your philosophy when you have this many arms?
Well, Angelina DeVoe is definite, like you just mentioned her. She is our annoyer. And I say we don't get lots of swings and misses. Today she did, because she is our annoyer. So I mean, she's normally a closer and a reliever, but I mean, if the matchup is the matchup, I'll use her. Um, right now, I think we're going to probably establish more of the starters and then who we want to end with, and go from there. We typically lay out our schedule and figure out how many innings we want to throw for each pitcher, and kind of just like with what they have, and who we're facing and whatnot. So we're keeping them fresh, we're getting enough innings for them, and we're not overusing them. So I think you're going to see like there might be a day where, hey, we kind of use Sarah a lot here. We might rest her this day, or same thing, because when you have two pitchers on our staff that throw 78 plus, um, that means we have to preserve that 70 plus as often as we can. Whereas, somebody like Ange, the annoyer, who she's not trying to throw 70 and she knows she won't get there, but she's not trying to throw 70. She's a mix master. She can throw a lot more often because it takes her less time to warm up. And I think she's warmed up when she wakes up. So, she's able to just hop in there. One of the most accurate pitchers that I've worked with in a long time. So I I, I can't answer that directly, Elo, because I think I have a plan, but it has been kind of changing here and there. I love having two lefties in our pitching roster. And I think that we'll utilize that too, along with the matchups as well, not only from our pitching matchups, but from a pitching to a hitting matchup as well.
Let's talk about the new faces of the freshmen in particular that I mentioned earlier was ranked 16th best class. in the country, most highly touted class in the history of the program. You have Samantha Ray, infielder from California, Sierra Humphrey, who her sister plays at Oregon, that people might be familiar with. Isabella Vega, you mentioned already on the pitching side. Samantha Tahoe, who just got a silver medal for the Puerto Rican national team recently in an international event. Alexis Morgan, Taylor Kittleman. Discuss this freshman class and what they bring.
Yeah, they it's a very strong freshman class. And Elo, you're gonna have to teach me about this because when we say highest ranking, what goes all into that? Because I know they are, but I also want to know, is it because, we're higher ranked and all of that? Because I think we're still recruiting the same people. But yeah, I do think we're getting like more talented athletes as we go along. This freshman class is, all I have to say is a three-letter word: fun. And when I say, like, they can be fun off the field, they can be fun on the field, they can be fun in the weight room. Like, we have not had to slow down for them. They know they're there, they're competitive, they're fun in Knights Chronicles. If you don't know what that is, that's like one of our team bonding things. I know you know what it is, but some of the fans out there, but it's just everything that they can do, and they're just like, what's up next? What are we doing? I mean, they've been really bought into it. And I think having been committed for 2 years and being able to watch this program do what it's done these past 2 years, and the connections and just how present we've been with, I think we have, I might be biased, but I think we have some of the best broadcasting of our games. And people love watching our games because there's special people that are commentating and calling the game. And so they've been in our, basically within our culture and our tradition for so long. So it hasn't felt like we've had freshmen on the team. I think the freshman moments would be understanding study hall and timing. That's the only thing that we've really had to work on. So that's been really nice and refreshing because next year they're going to have to really get to work really quickly and quicker than most have had to.
Of course, I forgot to mention Kylie Stroud, who's also a catcher, a freshman from Longwood, Florida. Her dad's a radio host of country music too. So I don't know if that means we're going to be hearing more country music in the outfield this year in the left field lounge or not. But at least if we do, now we know where that's coming from. On that, let me ask you as a coach though, how do you get the players to buy into their roles? Because I've had many coaches tell me that today it's more about you have to tell players why they have a specific role. Whereas maybe when you played, you were told you had a role and you took it. You didn't ask any questions. Now players are curious about the thinking behind it. And then listen, if people make a big deal with media makes a big deal about who's playing opening day, who's going to do this, but the season's a marathon. I remember Jessica Uvari started the season on the bench because she got beat out and she didn't get into the starting lineup until her number got called a month into the season when she hit a home run. She stayed in the lineup and they went on to win a conference title. So you never know when your number gets called. How do you get the players to buy into whatever roles is asked of them?
Yeah, so you are right. These athletes have so many different things that they go through from back in the day. I don't even know if I was told a role. I just knew whatever was on the lineup you're doing, and then just be prepared always. But nowadays, there's so much time, money, commitment to their craft. And when I talk about time and money, I mean the incoming freshmen's families, once they get to college, I think they might be saving money, whether they're on scholarship or not, because they're not having to do every, weekend tournament here and travel to this place, and because they can stay home and watch their daughter play on ESPN. And so I think that commitment level that they've had, they want, they want to know why they've put time into it. I've been talking to some coaches across the country with their travel ball programs that, they have a weight program, they have movement analysis. I mean, we're getting that stuff, we have that stuff here, but I had never heard of that until going to college. So the amount of training that they're getting and specialized training they're getting, it's important to them. And so I, as as it can be frustrating sometimes because we just want to coach and we have a plan and just be ready for anything. Um, i i do think that it's important that they are told what's expected of them because they have put so much time into it. And their efforts and their performance is exposed um, a lot often, whether it's good or bad. We talk about that quite often. Of there's been people that have had walk offs, and they're showing that video over and over again everywhere. And then there's people that may have struck out against a pitcher that's going to go to the championship game of the World Series, and their last at bat at Supers is playing over and over again for the World Series. And it could have been a strikeout. So um, I do think that we owe it to them, to let them know what's expected from them and let them know that there are no limits. But our biggest thing here and how we buy into roles is all roles do not have equal value, or sorry, all roles may not be equal, but they all have equal value. And that's been huge for us. And working with proactive coaching and really focusing on not only our team bonding, being a good teammate, taking care of the locker room, nourishing our relationships amongst each other, and understanding that playing time can create issues. And right now, like, you might not be on the starting lineup, but you're in the lineup, you're on the roster, you're there. So your time could come at any point and you could win a game being a pinch runner. And so when those times come, we don't just act like, oh, it's just a pinch runner. No, this pinch runner is our best pinch runner, and her slides are amazing. And her reads are awesome. And when she gets a good read, we are celebrating it like it's a grand slam walk-off hit. And so I don't know if those are the keys to success, or the recipe to success, but it's been working pretty well for us.
Well, one example of that is one of your seniors, Katie Burge. I'll never forget the story. You both have told me that story where you told her, I believe was of the 2022 season, you had so much depth that you didn't think she would play much, and you said, "Look, I think we're going to redshirt you." And she said, "No, I want to be a part of this team because I know this is a special group. I'll do whatever is asked of me." She rather want because she thought that team was special and she wanted to be a part of that, and she's shown that since when she's gotten playing time. But when she doesn't get playing time, she's in that dugout yelling and screaming on that. That's kind of the with those intangibles that a player like Katie Burge brings to the table.
Oh, 100%. It's and you have to, like, again, you have to really appreciate that, right? Because I often question myself, like, well, what would I do? Do I want to, individually, do I want to have that more of a playing time red shirt, or do I want to be a part of it? And I think I learned a lot through my mistakes as a player, because I mean, great. I would say good players are selfish, okay? In their own ways of needing to have their own routine, not a negative, needing to have their routine, needing to get their reps, needing to get those things. Um, and we definitely want our athletes to be that. But I've learned a lot that you can't do it by yourself, and so you need your team. And I think that's why our team chemistry is so important to me. Because we had great chemistry when I played, and I mean my alumni we all still are connected and talk. And um I don't know if I really focused on that while I played, and I regret not paying more attention to that while I played. It was always about, got to be the best for my team, but like really recognizing when my team was the best for us as well, or another teammate. And so that's something that we talk about a lot. And when you have, I feel like we have quite a few stars on our team, and sometimes that can be a disadvantage because one person can't be in the spotlight all the time if you've got 10 stars, 12 stars. And so just being able to learn how to celebrate each other.
Right, and their roles. Savannah Adams, another example. The most famous pinch hit home run in program history came a couple years ago in the semis against Houston. You called her number, and she hit a home run over Greenville to beat Houston in extra innings to get you that championship game. You would eventually win that championship. So again, it goes back to buying into that role. Even if you're not a starter, you have a valuable role. And you've always talked about you like using your bench. You've used players during in the middle of games for defensive reasons, for offensive reasons. So just because you don't start the game doesn't mean you're not going to play in that game. So could we see some of that again this year?
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be my MO, so I think so. And especially with the depth that we have. Um, and I also think, we have some players that have had to really work hard to get where they are, and to even break that lineup. And so um that might also show that they can play all sides of the ball a little bit better as well. So I think we'll see a little mixture of everything. But I do know that it's much tougher to scout 17, 18, 19, shoot, 21 for us, really good hitters, than just the straight nine. So that's, we also use that to our advantage.
Player you got back from injuries, Ashley Griffin, who missed all of last year with an injury. She's back healthy to go as a catcher. You got mentioned Kylie's a freshman now, is new to the team there. Carson Fry, who picked up the slack last year. Defensively, the junior. Never forget that throw out of the USF base runner in the semifinal in the American when USF was threatening. So you have Carson, you got Ashley, you got Kylie, you got Jada Cody, could still catch and has been an all conference catcher. All of a sudden, you got all these options at catching position, but just talk about that position, especially for Ashley. I know it was tough for her last year to sit out with that injury.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really tough. I mean, you're talking about a brand new pitching staff that we're throwing out there, and then Ashley was the one person that had that experience. And so kudos to Carson. She really took it on. Sarah is not easy to catch, and I don't say that in a negative way, but when you have somebody throwing 70, 49, 60, I mean, that's not easy. And I don't care if she's hitting her spots or not. And the ball moves. It's really difficult. And Carson just like worked so hard to be there for our team and for Sarah. And so it's been nice to, from a health standpoint, to be able to switch them in and out. But having Ashley back, she just brings that calmness. She's definitely she can play the game at a quick pace, but I just feel like she is listening to that country music in the left field lounge for sure. I mean, she's just slow and steady and no rushing and no freaking out. And when a pitcher gets to look at that, it's pretty special. They love throwing to her. And she worked her tail off to get healthy for this year. So that's been really nice to have her back. And then the addition of Kylie Strott has also been awesome. She's one of the most confident, competitive athletes that I have been around, and also still just chill. Doesn't need a lot, but I'll tell you what, if you want something done, have Kylie do it as well. So that's been nice. And for Jada, she can do it. She can play most positions. She's played everywhere on the field except for pitcher for us. And I feel confident that she could get the job done in those positions. But it's also nice to, be able to focus in on maybe one, maybe two things. So it'll be nice to give her that break too, because she's called on quite a bit. So.
Of course, infield, you've got Jasmine Williams back at shortstop. She helped set the program for being involved in 19 double plays last year. Second best fielding percentage by a shortstop in the history of the program behind Brittany Solis. In 2017, only made 9 errors, which is the 4th fewest behind Solis, who made 4 errors. And then Aaron Emanuel, who you know well, had 7 and 8 errors. She leads your shortstop. You bring back Aubrey Evans, who played second, can play short, as you mentioned earlier, can play third, caught a little bit, set the school record with doubles, and had the 3rd best batting average any freshman's ever had in program history. Just talk about your infielders. Obviously, you have Shannon Doherty and Jada we'll get to later, but talk about the infield as a whole.
Yeah, our infield is Coach Jen takes a lot of pride in what the infield does, obviously being one of the best infielders that played the game, not only in Canada or in college softball, but also in the world. And so if you have that human being as your coach, the standard is set pretty high. We talk about the ceiling, but the floor is even higher. And so That's been awesome to see them push themselves in that way. But you talk about how great Jazz did last year, and the best is yet to come for that young lady. She's just worked her worked her way into really getting back into her. And I can't even express the journey that she has gone through. And just how, having a baby changes you, not only from, physically, but everything else. And I see her better than I've ever seen her. And I'm even including, at USA times. And so that's been so awesome. She has studied the game, she's studied hops all fall. And her reads, like some of the plays she's making now, I was like, well, last year was good, but holy cow. And it doesn't hurt that she's got her, her fellow teammate Aubrey Evans doing the same thing, and they just work so well together. Um, they're both they make these plays look so easy, and I know they're not. But they just it's their craft. And I say that knowing that I think they're defensive players, but they can also hit the ball pretty darn well too. So um, yeah, that's been fun. The infield is also our two new freshmen, CC Humphreys, who has, I want to say, made 4 or 5 ESPN plays in our practice, in our scrimmages, and I'm not just saying that loosely. Like plays that my jaw is like on the ground. My wait, come on, don't act like that was a surprise. Like expect that from her. But like the whole practice stopped when she made those plays. And then you've got Samantha Ray, and I'm just going to say a little name, Justine Molina. Um, Probably one of the most underrated athletes that I've ever coached, Justine Molina. Um, People didn't know who she was until after the game. They're like, who is that number 12? Um, and Ray, everyone always says, like, she reminds me of her. She's this little sneaky gal that gets to balls and has an arm and can throw and has a little juice in her bat. And the future is bright for her. Played in a really high level program with the Orange County Batbusters. And so I'm excited for her as well. And then, of course, you've got Jada and Shannon, that just, the captain leadership. They know a lot of things. They're taking care of, defensive moves and switches. And um, it's been nice to have a set sound infield, because we've had a few changes every year, I think.
Yeah, and you've got depth. I mean, you got Macy Miles at first base, who can pitch as well, but
Yes.
plays really good first base, which I did not foresee happening, but I saw that in the fall. So Savannah Adams can play first base. You also have Stormy Selnick come in as a transfer, can play the infield and the outfield. What is her status? Because obviously it's been like a tennis game back and forth with the transfer rules. So it's been hard to kind of keep up. Is she eligible this year? Where are we with her?
Yeah. So the NCAA passed a waiver that all transfers um, within status of like academics are eligible now. And so she's eligible because of all the returners coming back in the infield. We've been kind of moving her from second base to outfield and whatnot. But if you know Stormy's a hitter. She can do everything, but Stormy's a hitter. Hitting is very important to her. And I want to call her a professional hitter. I mean, she focuses on that part of her game often. And so adding her in, I would say our lineup has been so good, not only for the dynamic of our lineup, but has pushed, the Kennedy Cersei's, who, no one's really been like Kennedy when, since she's been here on the left hand side, and the Chloe Evans. And so it's been nice to see everyone really elevate their game because of the intent that Stormy brings and the work ethic that Stormy brings.
Yeah, I mentioned Kennedy. Of course, she's in that outfield who's played third base. Chloe Evans had an incredible year last year. Really, maybe the best year an outfielder's ever had at UCF from an offensive standpoint, and defensively. She had 7 assists, which was a school record for defensive play and from right field there. And of course, Janisha Rowe has been at center field, catching everything with great range. And you mentioned Selnick there, part of it there, and Katie Burge is playing the outfield. How do you feel about your outfield situation right now?
Yeah, I mean, all of those athletes that you mentioned, minus Stormy, are seniors, so they've got a lot of experience. And again, it's so nice to have just they've been there and done that so often, and they've been in so many different just situations that they come and remind me, hey, remember we used to do this? Oh yeah, you're right. We Here we go. So it's going to be very nice, especially with the different dynamic of our team. You know, we have some rise ball pitchers pitching wise, we have some drop ball pitchers, but I think last year we saw more down balls, and that's why you saw less home runs hit for against us. And this year we're going to utilize our outfield a little bit more, thrown up in the zone.
You mentioned Sona earlier as a pitcher, but she can hit just like Sarah Willis can hit. But Sona can really hit. She had a home run in fall ball game where just I don't think the ball's landed yet, and she's shown that at Cal. And certainly Coach Mueller knows her very well. What do you foresee Sona? Do you foresee Sona as a two-way player? I know with Sarah last year you kind of had to manage that. Do you
Yeah.
see managing that with Sona similar, or what do you see in her?
Yeah, I don't know. We've been managing them just from as far as their workload, because there are two, velo throwers, and just being able to maintain that. But what goes into being a two-way player, the hitting, the extra hitting that you need to do to like get into the lineup, right? It's a lot, and so we've been really managing their workload in that way of um, checking out their recovery, seeing where they're at, giving them days off. And I do think that she is a two-way player. I think we're in a better position this year to let both of them hit, if the lineup allows for it, because we do have other pitchers that have experience now that we can give them a break in the circle, but um, they're going to help us most win games in the circle, and then with their bat. But they have really been training hard for both.
In all the years you've come on the podcast, this is the latest we've ever spent before we bring up Jada Cody and Shannon Doherty. It's not because of their least of their value; it's just how deep the roster is. But this is their fifth year. I mentioned earlier you've won 185 games at UCF. 151 of those has been with Shannon Doherty and Jada Cody on your roster. That shows the value to them. They've been the cornerstone of this program for many reasons, to the point where your youngest boy, Kasem, only knows those two in the corner infield. He's not. He's going to be really confused a year from now, uh, because they're not going to be in the corner infield. But speak to that because they've done a lot for this program as leaders on the field, but I know off the field. I mean, Shannon's obviously well documented, won the Order of Pegasus, which goes to the any student. That's a hard thing for any student to get at UCF. She earned that, and Jada's been an All-American, and she's once again on the top 50 watch list for the National Softball Player of the Year. Just incredible what these two have done, and still they got a chance to be the winningest two players in the history of this program by the time the season's done.
Yeah. Oh, you just kind of brought like chills and tears to my eyes right now. Let me just take a second. Yeah, it's obviously that's what makes this job the toughest is when you create these awesome relationships with these amazing human beings, and you win a lot of games along the way. Those two are OKKs, they're our kind of night. And when I say that, like I can rely on them on the field, off the field, in the classroom, in the community. A teammate gets in, maybe into a car accident. Jada and Shannon are there, and then I show up. Because I'm probably lugging some kids around. But uh, they are the epitome of who we are, core value wise, and what we expect from our team. They are definitely my comfort zone because they know what I'm thinking before I'm even thinking it half the time. They are constantly protecting me from uh, little thing, like every coach has their little idiosyncrasies and just their little things that bother them or, excite them. They I don't get upset often, and I know that they're protecting me all the time. So I'm excited to go about this year. I'm not going to look at it as a sad thing because I know they're always going to be around for, um, gosh, as long as I'm breathing. So, they're two special women, and they are huge to my family. My kids talk about them all the time. You're right. I think one time my husband sent me a video, and he's like, "Okay, who do we love? And two of them said mommy, and one of them said Shannon Doherty.
And I
So
think, and I know who that is too. I
you,
know which
you
one it
know who
is.
that is for
Yeah.
sure. Yes. And so it is a part of us and who we are. And so I'm so excited to see them put all their hard work in and just get to play, because they have so much help with the leadership this year. And it's been fun to watch them be those playground kids themselves again.
No question, it's unique. They've won 151 games. They've been a part of those two. To put it in perspective, Stephanie Best, a Hall of Famer, part of her senior class, won 172 games when they started the program. Her and Janae Shinhoster 20 some years ago. That's the most wins by any senior class. Of course, they played 273 games. That was back, you know this, you played back then. That's when they played like 60, 70 games and played in shorts.
Yes. I can, I don't know if it's fortunately or unfortunately say that I do know about those days.
Yes, you do. Yes, there's evidence there that you're in a hall of many Hall of Fames because of it. But Mackenzie Audis and Kaylee Novak senior class, 161 wins. Shelby Turnier senior class, 160 wins. That's what Cody and company is at 151. And then the 4-year seniors from this class, 130. I mean, wins. I mean, it's a pretty special day on that Sunday. We both will have sunglasses on that senior day. That's going to be a
Yes.
3-hour senior day ceremony. I feel on that. Couple things before we let you go. We some rules because people have chimed in, wanted me to ask you. They're like, you don't ever ask Coach Bear about the rules in the game. You're going to. I'm like, all right. 20-second pitch clock this year. Your reaction to that and the impact of that in the game? I know they've modified the illegal pitches. Your reaction to all that?
Um, I think it's good. I think it's going to be unique because not everybody's going to have the same equipment on the field to manage it. And so I think that we're going to run into some other things. But yeah, I mean, we put in rules that you can't look at your call card until you get on the mound, and that extended the time in between pitches, quite honestly. And now we're going back and putting the pitch clock in, and so I think it's necessary for the game to keep it going. Um, and it'll come with some new challenges as we move forward in learning it. I think the illegal pitch, I think it needs to be, like how it's set with the rules now because uh, it wasn't ruled as often as it should have been, and then people were penalized later on in season and not getting those opportunities later. So to allow pitchers to do what most all pitchers do, I think is the right call. So those two rules, they do affect my part of the game quite a bit, and we've been practicing and it's been a fun challenge, and I like that it's forcing us to stay in routine better, honestly.
You got your season tickets are sold out for the Plex. That's not even including individual game tickets and all that stuff. I'm not going to ask you about the facilities because you get asked about the facilities all the time. But what have you thought about the fact this year, this schedule with Oklahoma and Texas coming in from the Big 12? You got BYU coming in, which has its unique itself storyline and their fan base as well. It's a historic year. You've seen it around campus, and it'll be impacted as well in the Plex as part of the Big 12.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of emails asking of how we can get tickets, and I just keep saying, check this ticket office. They're great people, but no, it's such a great problem to have. And again, our fan base is so awesome, and we're bringing in awesome opponents, and it's fun to watch. So I think it's great for our sport. It's great for UCF, not only UCF softball, but UCF athletics. And I hope that we keep pushing the envelope to where we get the more seating and continue to keep doing those things. And I do think that our administration is definitely looking into those things as we're moving forward into not only this year but next year and in the future. But yeah.
That schedule you mentioned, non-conference. I thought you were going to go easy. Apparently, got lost in the mail. You're playing in Clearwater, marquee tournament there. Then you're playing at Mary Nutter, the two biggest tournaments, really, arguably in the sport, and you're in both, which is a compliment because, especially with Nutter, it's an invite. It's not like they have, they wanted you. You've hosting South Carolina in this field, and to unofficially, you're the only schedule that has the Big Ten regular season champion, Northwestern, the Pac 12 champion UCLA, the Big 12 and national champion in Oklahoma, all on the schedule. It's a wow. That's what I mean. That's a
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. I don't smarter dumb. I don't know. We'll find out at the end of the year. You always do a great job of complimenting me and then poking at me. I don't know if I'm yeah, I again, we only know how to do it one way. I don't know what easy is. They don't want easy. Our we people come here when we recruit them because they know the schedule we're going to play. They want to play in the best environments. They want to play against the best, and you know, continuing to, like I said, make the vision of playing in OKC a reality. And I think that that's what's really truly special is when your athletes are saying this team's potential is that. And that's unsolicited. They're doing it themselves. So I think it's such an amazing time uh, that we're in right now with this maturity level and the roster that we have.
My last question is: you get going opening night, you'll be hosting Connecticut, Howard in that tournament as you host, and then Clearwater and beyond. What are a couple questions that you're looking forward to finding out about this team, Team 23, that you can only find out playing other competition that could be a key for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to see how the pitchers take on some of the stuff that we've been working on. We're going to be in more of an attack mode, so I'm excited to see that. Excited to see we're going to have some new changes of our philosophy of how we're going to kind of run our lineup. So I'm excited to see that. And then how we perform and slow the game down when Night Nation is raging at those sellout games. So I think that's going to be fun because Clearwater is an environment we've been in for the last 2 years. Mary Nutter is not an environment that we've been in as a squad, and as a program, any of our current players. I think the last time that we've been there as a program, it was like in 2017. Oh no, yeah, 2017 maybe. So um, I'm excited for that. And I'm excited to see how we respond from last year going into Oklahoma. I know this isn't the first weekend, but Oklahoma State going to play there for the second time. So, yeah, those are the things I'm looking forward to in the upcoming future. Elo, what are you excited about? What's your like favorite thing opening weekend?
Wow. Put me on the spot. There you
I
go.
know,
Turning tables on me. Hey.
turning them around here.
It's exciting. I'm excited to see obviously the fans. I'm excited to see. I'll be working with Alex Powers, who'll be commentating because Fran decided to get into coaching all of a sudden. Go
No.
figure. They're taking out of the booth there now to become coach. That I've joked with Cassidy Brewer. That's like part of the trade. That was the trade that we just did on the side. You and Coach Walton did. But that should be exciting to see a lot of anticipation for your program, which is a high compliment, to say the least. So I think there's a lot of excitement.
Yeah. And what are you looking forward to, Elo? I'm turning it around. I'm telling you because
Yeah,
you've got
okay,
such
fair.
great.
All right.
What are you looking forward to, or what do you got as far as like the biggest surprise in the game of softball? It doesn't have to be related to UCF softball.
Whoa. Ooh, that's a great. Yeah. Are you sure you want to be a host? We should just. You're doing better questions than I have. Uh, biggest surprise. It's a good question. I think we'll have somebody surprise people come the postseason. Right? It's gonna be an unpredictable postseason. I think we're due for that.
Yeah, yeah,
I think that makes a ton of sense. That'll be good.
I do too. I do too.
We'll see. We'll see how that goes. Some milestones will be coming up. Also, I'll predict that.
Nice. Okay, I like
There
to
you
hear
go.
it.
All right. Well, you'll get to hear it soon.
He's always Elo's always got something in his pocket. He's got all the facts.
I try. No, no, not easy feat. Coach, always a pleasure talking to you. We could do this for hours, but you have a life. I don't. So you get to generous that, but you're off to practice. But thanks for taking the time to talk about softball and the program. And certainly will obviously see you soon. But thanks for joining us as always.
Thank you very much.